have your cozy clothes?
Got that. Do they know I'm black?
Should they?
You might wanna,
Mom and Dad, my black boyfriend will be coming up this weekend. I just don't want you to be shocked that he's a black one.
Welcome to True Documentary, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 horror movies of all time. For this list, we're looking at the most legendary and critically acclaimed horror movies that have stood the test of time. These films have terrified audiences, influenced countless filmmakers, and shaped the genre in unforgettable ways. What do you make of these classics? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20. Suspiria, 1977. Dario Argento's Suspiria is a visually stunning nightmare that has earned its place as one of the most unique horror films ever made. The story follows ballet student Susie Banyan, who arrives at a prestigious dance academy only to uncover its dark, supernatural secrets. It's the key that allows us to know where the teachers go every night. I found out last night. I wrote it all down here. But beyond the plot, Suspiria is a masterclass in style and atmosphere. Argento's use of vivid, dreamlike colors and Luciano Tavali's mesmerizing cinematography turn every frame into a work of art. The chilling score by Goblin and Argento himself only adds to the film's hallucinatory terror. With its surreal imagery and relentless tension, Suspiria remains a cornerstone of Italian horror and the giallo subgenre. Number 19. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Few horror films have left as deep an impact as Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. While the slasher genre was booming in the 1980s, this film took it to an entirely new level by introducing audiences to Freddy Krueger, one of the most chilling and iconic villains in horror history. 1-2. Freddy's Coming for You. What sets Nightmare on Elm Street apart is its genius premise. Death isn't just a physical threat. It lurks in the very dreams of its victims. Craven expertly blends supernatural horror with psychological terror, making sleep itself a deadly prospect. Robert Englund's unforgettable performance as Freddy Krueger, with his grotesquely burned face and razor glove, solidified him as a horror icon. The film's dream logic allows for some of the most imaginative and surreal kills ever put on screen. The sheer terror of A Nightmare on Elm Street earned it a place in the National Film Registry, cementing its legacy in cinematic history. Number 18. Saw, 2004. This franchise may have suffered from diminishing returns, but there's no denying that the original Saw is an absolute classic. It's a well-written film filled with memorable characters and shocking twists, and it played a major role in revolutionizing the horror genre. Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game. Countless Saw clones were produced to capitalize on the torture horror trend it inspired, but none managed to capture the magic of James Wan's breakout hit. While comparisons were drawn to, say, 7 On and other grim crime thrillers, Saw carved out its own identity through its unique concept, grotesque violence, and relentless tension. It spawned one of the biggest horror franchises in history, and Jigsaw has firmly established himself as one of the genre's most recognizable villains. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. Number 17. Frankenstein, 1931. Arguably one of the most famous horror movies ever made, Frankenstein has been thrilling audiences since the early 1930s. Based on Mary Shelley's seminal novel, Frankenstein explores the dangers of playing God and the ethical dilemmas of scientific progress. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. In the name of God. Now, I know what it does. Frankenstein's monster, portrayed by Boris Karloff, remains one of the most iconic movie characters of all time, thanks to his instantly recognizable makeup and Karloff's unforgettable performance. The film's themes remain as relevant today as they were nearly a century ago, asking deep questions about humanity, technology, and unchecked ambition. Frankenstein also gave birth to one of the greatest sequels ever made, Bride of Frankenstein, 1935, further cementing its legendary status. Everything about this film is historic, from its groundbreaking cinematography to its lasting influence on the horror genre. Number 16. Ring. Directed by Hideo Nakata, Ring is easily one of the most popular Japanese horror films. Spawning a very popular American remake, Ring is about a cursed videotape that kills its viewers within a week. The movie contains an outstanding villain in Sadako Yamamura, who is the Japanese equivalent of Samara Morgan. Some of its visuals have also made their way into the horror canon, including the eerie tape itself, and the image of Sadako emerging from the television to attack Ryuji. The slow-building tension, unsettling atmosphere, and minimalistic yet effective use of sound design contribute to its deeply haunting impact. Ring was so successful, it helped popularize J-horror in the West, setting the stage for numerous remakes and adaptations. It influenced a wave of psychological horror films that leaned on supernatural folklore, including The Grudge and Dark Water. The film's legacy continues to endure, making it a benchmark for the horror genre and a must-watch for fans of atmospheric terror. The early 2000s J-horror craze is all thanks to Ring, proving that sometimes the scariest horrors lie in the unseen and the unknown. Number 15. The Innocents. Henry James's The Turn of the Screw is one of the greatest horror stories ever written, and it's been adapted countless times. For the screen, Jack Clayton's 1961 adaptation is undeniably the best. I don't know what the children saw, but they used to follow Quint and Ms. Jessel, trailing along behind, hand in hand, whispering. There was too much whispering in this house. Miss, this is a masterfully constructed psychological horror movie with impeccable craft in every department. Clayton's direction is confident, and the screenplay, which was co-written by Truman Capote, is deep and ambiguous. The film expertly balances supernatural horror with psychological tension, leaving viewers questioning the reality of the haunting. Cinematographer Freddie Francis helps build an oppressive atmosphere through haunting lighting and evocative black and white imagery, while the electronic sound designed by Daphne Oram was revolutionary for its time. The Innocents proves that sometimes the movie isn't always worse than the book, even when the book is this darn good. We must try to learn what it is these horrors want. Think Mrs. Grows. The answer must lie in the past. Number 14. Hereditary. Ari Aster made one of the greatest debuts in horror with Hereditary, instantly establishing his reputation as a master of the genre. Heralded as one of the most disturbing movies of the decade, Hereditary follows a troubled family as they deal with grief, trauma, and the sinister influence of an unseen force. So full of disdain and resentment, and always so annoyed. Well, now your sister is dead. The story is rich in thematic material, exploring the intersection of fate, family curses, and mental illness. It twists and turns in many unexpected directions, keeping viewers in a constant state of unease. The visuals are as deeply unsettling as they are gorgeously captured by cinematographer Pavel Pokrzywski, with meticulously composed shots that reinforce the film's pervasive dread. Steve, please. I really need you to be open to this. Please, I promise. Both of you, please, I need you to be open. Please. With its shocking twists, unnerving atmosphere, and emotionally devastating story, Hereditary is a modern horror masterpiece that lingers long after the credits roll. Number 13. Night of the Living Dead. George A. Romero proved that budget doesn't make a movie. With a minuscule amount of money, chocolate sauce for blood, and outfits bought from Goodwill, Romero crafted one of the most revolutionary horror films of all time. They're Coming to Get You, Barbara. The first in his historic Dead franchise, Night of the Living Dead portrays the outset of a zombie outbreak and set the standard for modern zombie films. The film earned enormous controversy for its graphic content and on-screen violence, with some critics immediately dismissing it as another cheap B-movie. However, over time, it became recognized not only for its technical craft, but also for its historical context. By introducing the modern concept of zombies, Romero changed the very fabric of the horror genre, and his influence has transcended film, reverberating throughout pop culture. Beyond its horror elements, the film also tackled social issues of its time, particularly with its casting of Duane Jones as the film's hero, a rare and groundbreaking choice in 1968. Number 12. Rosemary's Baby. Some movies take a good book and turn it into something extraordinary, and Rosemary's Baby is a prime example. Adapted from Ira Levin's novel, the film tells the famous story of Rosemary Woodhouse, a young woman who begins to suspect that a sinister conspiracy surrounds her pregnancy. Rocky, trying to get me to be his wife. Aren't you his mother? The movie isn't just an outstanding horror film. It's a masterfully constructed psychological thriller. Nearly every aspect of its production has earned acclaim and awards recognition. From Roman Polanski's meticulous direction and Christoph Komeda's eerie music to the performances of Mia Farrow and Ruth Gordon. Gordon's portrayal of the meddling and secretly sinister Minnie Castevet won her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. A slow burn of escalating paranoia, Rosemary's Baby taps into universal fears of powerlessness, bodily autonomy, and the isolation of motherhood. Its psychological horror elements have influenced countless films, making it one of the genre's most unsettling and enduring entries. Number 11. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The horror genre can be divided into two eras, before and after the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like many classic horror films, it initially received a mixed reception and earned enormous controversy for its unrelenting brutality and seemingly immoral content. However, time has only cemented its legacy. You boys don't want to go mess around no old house. Those things are dangerous. You're liable to get hurt. The film's technical prowess is now widely praised, from Daniel Pearl's raw and gritty cinematography to the film's documentary-like realism that makes it feel unnervingly authentic. Every frame seems soaked in Texas heat and dread, adding to the film's oppressive atmosphere. Of course, it's also a history-making film. It helped popularize the slasher genre and introduced one of horror's most iconic figures, Leatherface. His use of a chainsaw, his grotesque mask, and his erratic yet terrifying presence influenced many future silent slashers, including Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. Number 10. Scream, 1996. Wes Craven makes his second appearance on this list with Scream, one of the most groundbreaking slashers ever made. By the mid-90s, the horror genre was gasping for air. Slasher films had become stale, buried under a pile of uninspired sequels and repetitive villains. Enter Craven and screenwriter Kevin Williamson, who delivered a genre-redefining masterpiece that simultaneously satirized and revitalized the slasher film. Williamson's script was a clever deconstruction of horror movie tropes, acknowledging the genre's cliches while paying loving homage to them. The result? A fresh, self-aware horror movie that balanced humor with tension. Featuring a stellar cast, including Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette, Scream also delivered some of the most memorable kills of the decade. And of course, we can't forget its iconic killers, Stu and Billy, who turned an already intense climax into one for the ages. Had the characters watched prom night, they might have stood a better chance. After all, as Randy famously says, there's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect. Number 9. Get Out, 2017. Jordan Peele emerged as one of the most compelling voices in modern horror with Get Out, a film that seamlessly blends social commentary, psychological horror, and sharp humor. Featuring an Oscar-winning screenplay, Get Out tackles themes of racial tension, privilege, and identity in America while delivering a gripping and unsettling narrative. The film follows Chris, Daniel Kaluuya, in a star-making performance, as he visits his white girlfriend's family for the weekend, only to discover that something deeply sinister is at play. What starts as awkward microaggressions and passive racism soon spirals into a chilling revelation involving brain transplants and a secret society looking to exploit black bodies. While Get Out is deeply layered and could be dissected in an academic setting, it never loses sight of its primary goal: to entertain and disturb. Peele masterfully crafts an atmosphere of unease, balancing comedic moments with deeply unsettling horror sequences. The film's cultural impact is undeniable, proving that horror can be both intelligent and terrifying. Do they know I'm black? Should they? Number 8. Halloween, 1978. Is there anything about Halloween that isn't iconic? The setting alone. quiet, suburban Haddonfield became the blueprint for slasher films to come. John Carpenter's film brought horror home, taking it from Gothic castles and haunted mansions to the unassuming, everyday neighborhood, making the terror feel eerily close to reality. From its chilling minimalist score, arguably one of the most recognizable themes in movie history, to its pioneering cinematography featuring innovative point-of-view shots and the smooth Steadicam technique, Halloween was a game-changer. It introduced us to one of horror's most legendary final girls, Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, and the relentless force of evil himself, Michael Myers. Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance, delivered some of the film's most haunting lines, warning about the true nature of Myers. Beyond its terrifying story and suspenseful execution, Halloween pioneered the tropes that would define slasher films for decades. Yet it never feels like a cliché. The film's influence can still be felt today, proving that true horror stands the test of time. Number 7. Jaws, 1975. Later in his career, Steven Spielberg would establish himself as a family-friendly director, known for films filled with warmth and boundless imagination. But Jaws? Well, let's just say it isn't very family-friendly. This is a film that turned an entire generation against swimming in the ocean. A massive, relentless great white shark terrorizes the beaches of Amity Island, leading to some of the most terrifying and gruesome deaths in horror history. The film's impeccable style holds up remarkably well, featuring Spielberg's classic underwater point-of-view shots, John Williams' instantly recognizable and dread-inducing score, and, of course, a surprisingly realistic mechanical shark that remains effective despite its production challenges. Beyond its terrifying thrills, Jaws birthed the summer blockbuster and catapulted Spielberg into Hollywood superstardom. It was a masterclass in suspense, proving that sometimes what you don't see is even scarier than what you do. You're gonna need a bigger boat. Number 6. The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. Few horror films have achieved the prestige of The Silence of the Lambs. This psychological horror masterpiece didn't just entertain. It dominated awards season, becoming the latest and only one of 3 films to win the Big 5 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. The film introduced audiences to the terrifying yet captivating Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a villain unlike any other. Anthony Hopkins delivered an unforgettable performance as the brilliant but monstrous Lecter, whose conversations with FBI trainee Clarice Starling, Jodie Foster, remain some of the most chilling moments in cinematic history. The Silence of the Lambs gets under your skin in a way few horror films do, proving that psychological horror can be just as terrifying, if not more so, than supernatural scares or slasher mayhem. Number 5. Alien, 1979. On paper, Alien sounds like a B-movie disaster waiting to happen. The premise? Halloween in space, but with a deadly extraterrestrial instead of a masked killer. Yet under Ridley Scott's direction, Alien became one of the greatest sci-fi horror films ever made. The film is a visual marvel, featuring exquisite production design, a hauntingly beautiful art style, and a truly terrifying creature designed by the legendary H.R. Giger. Every aspect of Alien is crafted for maximum tension, from its claustrophobic spaceship setting to the slow burn suspense that leads to some of the most shocking moments in horror history, including the infamous chestburster scene. Sigourney Weaver's performance as Ellen Ripley also solidified her as one of horror's most iconic protagonists, proving that a strong, intelligent heroine could lead a genre film to greatness. This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off. Number 4. The Shining. There's just no going wrong with Stanley Kubrick. Adapted from Stephen King's classic novel, The Shining tells the harrowing tale of the Torrance family, who become isolated in the eerie and desolate Overlook Hotel during the winter. Much of the psychological horror unfolds through Jack Torrance, a struggling writer and recovering alcoholic who slowly descends into madness under the hotel's sinister influence. His growing insanity ultimately leads him to a horrifying attempt to murder his wife, Wendy, and son Danny. Kubrick's meticulous direction and Jack Nicholson's unforgettable performance elevate The Shining beyond traditional horror. Nicholson embodies Jack's descent into madness with disturbing realism, while Kubrick crafts a nightmarish atmosphere filled with tantalizing ambiguity, chilling symbolism, and hypnotic cinematography. The Shining is more than just a horror movie. It's a cinematic masterpiece that has been analyzed and dissected for decades. With its blend of mainstream appeal and artful filmmaking, it remains one of the most influential and celebrated horror films of all time. But you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker. Number 3. Dracula. The first sound film adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula is not just the best, it's the most famous. Directed by Todd Browning, this 1931 classic introduced the world to Bela Lugosi's mesmerizing portrayal of Count Dracula, setting the standard for all vampires to come. Lugosi's performance is nothing short of legendary. His aristocratic demeanor, hypnotic gaze, and deliberate eerie line delivery created the archetype of the sophisticated yet terrifying vampire. His chilling presence and the film's gothic atmosphere ensured that Dracula would become one of the most influential horror films of all time. Beyond its cinematic impact, Dracula shaped Western pop culture. The film's dialogue from "I never drink," "wine to die," to "be really dead, that must be glorious," remains etched in the annals of horror history. The imagery of Lugosi in his flowing cape, casting a haunting shadow, is ingrained in the public consciousness, ensuring that this Dracula, like a vampire itself, will never truly die. The legacy of Dracula is immeasurable. It established the vampire genre as we know it, paving the way for countless adaptations, from Christopher Lee's menacing interpretation to modern reinventions. Its influence is still evident in books, films, and television series today. The movie lives on, and it may never fade from the cultural conversation. Number 2. The Exorcist. There is perhaps no greater example of a horror film undergoing a critical re-evaluation than The Exorcist. Upon its release in 1973, The Exorcist was met with controversy, fear, and a mixed critical reception. The film's intense subject matter, demonic possession, and Catholic exorcism sparked widespread outrage, with some viewers fainting or fleeing theaters in terror. However, as the years passed, it became clear that The Exorcist was more than just a shocking horror film. It was a cinematic triumph. Based on William Peter Blatty's novel, The Exorcist follows the horrifying possession of 12-year-old Regan MacNeil and the desperate attempts of two priests to save her soul. Director William Friedkin crafted a film that blends psychological horror with theological themes, creating an experience that is as intellectually stimulating as it is terrifying. Like a demonic entity, the film has possessed the public consciousness, with its terrifying moments, Regan's spinning head, the spider walk, the chilling tubular bells theme, becoming instantly recognizable. It was the movie that proved horror could be more than cheap thrills. It could be thought-provoking, artistic, and deeply unsettling. Without The Exorcist, horror as we know it today would not exist. It legitimized the genre, proving that a horror film could be just as ambitious, profound, and cinematic as any drama or epic. What an excellent day for an exorcism! Stay tuned for number 1. Before we reveal our pick for the greatest horror movie of all time, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest videos. Whether you want occasional updates or all our latest content, make sure to adjust your settings on your phone to never miss a moment of horror history. What do you think will take the number 1 spot? Share your thoughts in the comments below. There's nothing about Psycho that doesn't work, and it's so ingrained in pop culture that everyone knows basically everything about it, even if they've never seen it. The characters are timeless, particularly Norman Bates. She just goes a little mad sometimes. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from True Documentary. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.